All right, and we're live. Good morning, everybody. This is Tacobout Live with Frank and Manny. We got a special guest here with us, Peter Perez from Carrizo Springs. He has a podcast over there, Israelites, right? Israelites podcast. And actually, we're going to be talking about certain Israelites or supposed Israelites here today. But good morning, fellas. How y'all doing this morning?
Doing good, bro. It's fixing to get better. Got some big, juicy tacos. Picked them up this morning.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, I'm doing good. Pete, how you doing, brother?
Doing great, man. I have a carne guisada taco. It's going down nice. Really tasty. We're ready to go. Got food in my belly.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And, so today we got a lot of stuff going on. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, so this is kind of a special edition per se, in the sense that usually we're on Taco Tuesdays, but today we kind of moved this broadcast here to Friday morning. And so but traditionally we got to keep with the theme of our show, Tacobout it. So we had to get our tacos. Got my coffee. I'm good to go. By the way, for all of those, all of my Jewish brethren, Hag Sameach, Hag Sukkot Sameach, Happy Sukkot. This is the sixth day of the Feast of Tabernacles, and so this is the time where we believe that the Messiah had come to the earth to fulfill the prophecies regarding Isaiah and actually every other Messianic prophecy there is in the Torah and the prophets. And so I just want to say a special Hag Sameach to everyone. Pete, you guys celebrate Sukkot, right?
We sure do. Yeah.
Awesome.
In our congregation in Carrizo Springs called Grace of God Community Church.
Awesome, man. Praise the Lord. And Frank, not yet.
Not yet, bro. Hey, look, I'm always interested. Hey, look, I realize, folks, that our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ was born a Jew, man.
Yeah.
And the history of the Israelite people is his history, and he came in to establish a new covenant, with us. But as far as his Jewishness, is something that I definitely would love to dig more into, because we see the beauty of the fulfillment, of the Old Testament, the law and the ceremonies and festivals, the observances come to life in Christ.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Amen. Amen. And on that note, we got there were some people that had come here to Del Rio the other day, and I think they're still in the area. They visited the coalition. They also went to Piedras Negras, and they found their way to Acuña. And I also saw them interviewed last night on with Isaac Ruiz, right?
Yes. The Rising Texan, down in Eagle Pass.
Right, down in Eagle Pass. And I have to say that, Frank, a lot of people that I've been getting a lot of texts, who are these guys? They're out here dressed kind of a peculiar way, right? And so
peculiar, ridiculous, man.
I'm trying to be nice about it per se. But anyway, folks, the people that you're seeing, the people I'm referring to, are what's known as Black Hebrew Israelites, right? It's a group. Actually, they're considered a hate group by the Anti-Defamation League and some other organizations as well. They're anti-Semitic. They're actually a racist group as well. They oppose all forms of Judaism, all forms of Christianity. They teach that it's only black people who are the descendants of the tribes of Israel.
Wow.
So we can go on and on and on. But my concern with them, Frank, is that they can be very, and Pete, they can be very aggressive in their tactics, in their witnessing. We've had in our organization, some of my fellow rabbis, some people in our congregation have had interaction with these people, and they've been aggressive with them.
Yeah, and you can look at, and folks here, give me a thumbs up if you can hear Manny. He's across the table here, at the end of the table, but let me know if y'all can hear him with a thumbs up here, or let me know I can hear Manny. We saw a lot of these videos, Manny and Peter, that they're sitting there brandishing knives.
Yeah.
The garb that they're wearing, they have spikes on their forearms and stuff, very aggressive. And then just listening to him. When the Spirit of God dwells in you, He gives you discernment. And so when you listen to these people, you can see the deception. You can hear it.
Right.
You can hear the deception in their message, and just the hate comes through. And so the reason we've got to be concerned, folks, and I was talking with the guys here before. When you have leadership at the helm, you have leaders at the gates of the city. The leaders are the ones that invite into your community and thus into our lives influences and people who have agendas. And so we've been talking, you guys know it's a constant recurring theme in the lack of leadership, the lack of discernment, the lack of wisdom, some of the bad decisions that have been made by our leaders that exacerbated this situation on the border. And now we've got this influx of outright racism in a city that we don't look at black and brown and white and green. You know,
Right.
we look at Americans and Texans.
Yeah.
And so now we got Al Sharpton came in yesterday. There's rumors of BLM coming in. Certainly, there's going to be people that saw that Al Sharpton was shouted down. We disagree with him totally, but you know his supporters are going to be plotting and planning some kind of revenge.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And it was very, very interesting. Pete, I don't know if you saw that video.
I did see it yesterday.
Yeah. And you guys are all the way in Carrizo Springs, so that's about like a 2-hour drive.
About a 2-hour drive.
2-hour drive from here. So I want to really thank you for coming all the way over here this morning.
Yeah,
appreciate
and
it.
joining us this morning. But I know it's affecting you guys over there.
Sure is.
It's just not. Even though you guys are about 40 miles away from the border.
It'd be about 35 or so. Yeah, about 40 miles.
Yeah, about 40 miles. But still, even though you're 40 miles away from the border, it's still affecting you all in Carrizo Springs, right?
It sure is, yeah.
Yeah, Jasmine, we don't know if BLM is coming. Rumors, as I said, rumors. Let's verify everything. Look for authoritative sources. It's not about spreading rumors here. It's just about letting you know that those are certainly possibilities, man.
Yeah.
You know. And real quick before I forget, guys, Peter very graciously hosted for us a rally in Carrizo Springs back in May. Him and his
Congregation.
you know, his uncle, his congregation, his father, his wife. They were very gracious in allowing the community to be used as a rally point as we, spoke out against child trafficking, human trafficking, which is part of this border invasion problem that's also affected our nation.
Yep, and it's interesting when Al Sharpton came over here yesterday, and I'm going to call him Al Sharpton. A lot of people call him Reverend. He's not, in my opinion, he's not a Reverend. He doesn't fit that mold, how a Reverend is supposed to be. He got shouted down, Frank, a lot, and I think, well, I know, because of we don't need racism here, and Morgan Freeman a while back, I was watching an interview with him. He did something very, very deep, and I thought I agreed with it totally. When the interviewer asked him, how do you think we could end all this racism? And he said, stop talking about it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that Al Sharpton is very, very good at, bringing racism into just about every issue.
Yeah.
Including the illegal immigration issue. What do you think about that, Pete?
Well, when it comes to the legal immigration, I'm going to speak from our viewpoint from Carrizo Springs. Before I do that, though, for everybody who's watching on Facebook and on Instagram with me right now, could you please do me a favor, Frank and Manny, just introduce yourself and your background, because I was talking to several people this morning about who I was going to be speaking with and meeting with, and they're anxious to know who you guys are. We have a long history, by the way, and we just recently met with Frank, who's an amazing man who loves God with all of his heart. And so if you can just share who you are really quick, Brother Manny here, and then I'll shift it over to Frank, then I'll answer the question.
Sure. My name is Manny Rodriguez. I'm the congregational leader here at Brooklyn Assembly in Del Rio, Texas. I am Jewish, ethnically Jewish, because a lot of people ask me, well, how are you Jewish with the last name Rodriguez? Well, my mother is Jewish, but her last name is Martinez, and so people kind of say, well, how does that happen? Well, anyway, I'm not going to go too much into our history, but anyway, that side of the family is from Spain. We descend from Jews in Spain, and so we are of what's called Sephardic heritage. But also, I retired recently with the United States Border Patrol, serving 25 years in the United States Border Patrol, United States Army. I was in the United States Army for 6 years before that, so I was a lot thinner at one time. And then I state law enforcement in New Mexico, and then came over here and started in Eagle Pass, Texas. Helped develop the chaplaincy program in the Border Patrol with Frank here. We just retired as well, not too long ago, in about 2018. And then we're back together again, here doing what we love best, is spreading the good news and causing waves, I guess.
And getting involved. And I have my good brother Frank.
Hey, y'all. What's up? So let me tell you real quick. Frank Lopez Jr., born and raised in South Texas, moved to El Paso, joined the Border Patrol, went in the Army, 3 years overseas, Honduras, Central America, Mainz, West Germany, came back, joined the Border Patrol, 30 years later, married to my beautiful wife, Ida, 30 years. I've had great, awesome twin sons, and so I decided to get into politics when I retired in 2018. It was one of the things I wanted to do, but I also wanted to do God's will. As I wrestled with retiring, I was like, to do what, God? And I heard in my heart to go talk to people about the ills of the socialist message being spread by the Democrats. It's a godless message. It's anti-life. It's anti-family, and it's destructive to the entrepreneurial spirit that created America. Somos hispanos, somos latinos, lo que nos quieran decir tejanos, pero tenemos un mensaje para la gente. We have a message for the people, that we are not owned by any one party, we're not owned by any one group of people. We're beholden to God, our Lord and Creator. And He has given us everything that He has given us as Texans and as Americans, given us this opportunity to live here. And so we have to fight for the freedoms we have. So I just wanted to share that with you, bro.
Yeah,
I mean,
perfect.
that's my passion, man.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. And I appreciate you sharing that information with our audience back at home. It's very important. So in Dimmitt County, where I'm from, it's a smaller community. To be honest, more largely blue. And I'm not saying that, to necessarily divide. But when it comes to our views on the border and policies, especially immigration, there's not a lot of information, sadly, that most of our Hispanic community knows and understands about this particular issue. So why does this matter to us in Dimmitt County? Well, number one, because we have 2 influx facilities in our community that have been running since January, and they've been at max capacity. And now what's happened here in Del Rio at the bridge, all of that is continuing to impact us in Dimmitt County. Throughout this present administration doing what it's been doing and implementing these very poor policies, we had seen an uptick in criminal activity, property damages, car chases, even through neighborhoods throughout the past 9 months. And even up until today, now we're seeing more buses, traffics going through our community to these influx facilities. We see them daily. I even know the schedules, and we had something unique happen in that myself, my wife, and my father, we were actually invited to tour one of the influx facilities, so we actually have inside information and knowledge. The director was actually very gracious in inviting us out there, but we learned more about how this process works with one of the facilities. They're not all the same. They're not all led by the same people, contracted by the government, of course, but they're not all the same. And so we did our best to bring all that information out for our community and help them understand this is a serious problem. This is a serious issue, and it could all end, but Biden has not ended it. He has not closed the border. He hasn't even come down here. Yeah. Kamala almost made it down here. Yeah. She was too busy flipping coins at a football game just recently. So yeah, all of this is being ignored, and we who live closer to the border, we're having to deal with all the issues ourselves. So what we're graciously trying to do is make people aware of the information and equip them so they can understand. We're not against immigration. We're against illegal immigration and what's been happening, where you have over 1 million individuals that have already come to this country. And what is going to happen with all of them? We're going to pay for health care, for schooling, and you can go down the list.
Actually, that's already started. Sure. Paying for their medical, for even for security now. Yeah. They have paid security protecting them over there, and rightly so, in the sense that they do need, everybody needs protection. There has to be safety measures put into place for both the illegal aliens and also the agents that are there as well. But one of the reasons I want to talk to you this morning, Pete, is because you live in Carrizo Springs, 35 to 40 miles away from the border. Del Rio is right up on the border, basically about 3 miles. Eagle Pass is right there on the border, not even a mile from the border. And yet we're getting such an influx over here that it's affecting you all. But I also want to point out, you talked about the NGOs that you went, and the NGO site you went to go visit. One of our greatest concerns here in regards to the NGOs is the facilitation of illegal immigration with these NGOs. Meaning that folks are getting paid big bank to further facilitate illegal entry into the United States with these. It's not just Haitians. There's Cubans and there's Venezuelans, there's Ecuadorians, there's Hondureños, Guatemaltecos. Yeah. You name it. Yes. But the reality is, folks, is that they're getting paid a lot of money to do this. Yeah. And sadly, a lot of people think, Pete and Frank, of course, you and I visit with NGOs here. A lot of people think that it's all volunteer donations, right?
Out of the goodness of their heart. And let's say something about that. Look, folks, certainly Christ told us to feed our neighbor, etc. But remember also that God has ordained nations, boundaries. Acts 17 specifically talks about that from one man all the nations of the earth came to be. And so he also established through the covenant with Noah, when they disembarked from the ark, he created a government.
Yeah.
You know, and that was seen when Moses, his father-in-law, said, "Hey, man, you need to delegate duties to the people," as he led the Israelites through the desert for those 40 years.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it is important that you recognize that there are boundaries, and we're not anti-people, we're not haters here, you know, but we believe in the rule of order because, you know, this is our house, man.
Yeah.
And
So,
these are
yeah.
godly principles.
I think, if you don't mind if I interject, I think that's one thing that most people don't realize, that even as Christians, when they see Christians getting involved with what's happening on the border, or even in politics in general, we forget that as Christians, those who represent God to those around us, we are supposed to be a people of law. You know, loving our neighbor as ourselves isn't loving our neighbor as ourselves our way; it's God's way, and He has a very specific way. But He also lays down instructions and laws that are for our blessing, for our guidance. So we have to understand that balance. We love others, as you know. You'll see a lot of Christian organizations first, they're on the front lines to help need and help bring relief. But at the same time, we have to understand if there's policies in place that are creating more harm than good for our country, then as Christians, it is our responsibility to expose that corruption, to educate, and then to take a stand to say we will not enable this behavior that's continuing to destroy families, that's continuing to destroy our country,
Right.
that is enabling, again, these policies to stay in place that will continue to destroy America. And unless you're here next to the border, because I have a lot of people that are actually further up north that still believe that this isn't real, that this isn't happening. So we're all here sharing this information. If you're not living close to the border, then you have no idea what's happening until you get in the front lines and in the trenches and the ditches with the people and individuals who are, albeit coming over illegally, who are suffering. You have to understand it begins with this administration first. Those policies have to change, or what's happening is going to continue happening, and lives will be affected.
Yeah.
Ours as American citizens, because we have the rights as American citizens, but then those who are coming over who are, you know, there's groups of them, of course, who are genuinely seeking good things in our country, but there's a way to do it.
Yeah.
And when they come en masse, like we've seen at the border, you know, the number went up to 15,000, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Now it's gone down because of the processing. But you have all of these problems, hygiene issues. You have COVID. You have other diseases. You have even violence. This should not be happening.
But, and one thing I wanted to say real quick, yeah, exactly, Peter. We saw that early on that this was going to be a vehicle for the cartels to push child flesh, for them to push the sickening traffic that's infecting this state, number one human trafficking state in the country, to our great, you know, disgust. But it was going to be a vehicle to push child peddling. And you know, folks, a lot of these organizations, I get it. You know, they're of you know, charity, faith-based in nature, but let there be no doubt about this, that there's a lot of liberals that are involved in this. Specifically, I'll say right here in Valverde, the Border Humanitarian Coalition,
Right.
the director is a liberal. And we got to remember, folks, that the liberals work hand in hand with the socialists, and they are taking part, you know, in the dilution of our way of life, which includes a Judeo-Christian foundation to our nation.
You know, I want to talk real quick about, you know, when you talked about the destruction of families, and you know, I'm over here looking for some stuff, so I'm paying attention. We don't have an engineer here with us, so anyway, but because I want to pop up a picture here real quick, and because it kind of goes hand in hand with what you're talking about, Pete, about the destruction of families. I believe as well that Joe Biden not only has brought destruction upon the United States and our families here. Of course, he just lost Afghanistan, and that's something nobody's talking about right now either.
Yeah.
You know, Afghanistan has just become the largest safe haven for terrorist organizations in the free world. ISIS is back, Al Qaeda is back, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But I truly believe also that he has ruined the lives of these Haitians. And let me tell you why. Because a lot of people don't realize that these Haitians didn't come, and we've talked about it numerous times on our program. A lot of people think that these Haitians left Haiti and came directly to Mexico, and boom, then they crossed. Folks, the majority of these Haitians, I can almost guarantee you about 99.9% of these Haitians have been living in Mexico, Central America, and South America, anywhere from a year to maybe 5 years or more. They were going to, their kids were going to school, they were having children, their children were going to school, they bought homes, they had livelihoods. How do we know this? I've been talking to my sources, And folks, they've processed Haitians that have anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000, even more on their person when they come into this country. And I'm going to show you a picture real quick. I'm going to pull it up, put it on there. And you see this picture, what are you looking at right here? You're actually looking at Chilean IDs discarded on the river.
Yeah.
Right? Chilean IDs discarded on the river and that were thrown away by Haitians. Right, and so why did they discard them? Well, let me tell you, because I'm glad you asked. Why did they discard this? Right?
What do they discard?
Well, here's the thing, because if they have them on their person when they get over here, they can't apply for asylum, right? And what's the argument? They're asylum seekers. They're asylum seekers, folks. They're not asylum seekers. They've already established residence in Chile, other parts of South America, Central America, and even Mexico, and that will preclude them from trying to apply for asylum here, right? And another thing that we found out, according to our sources, is that many of them, especially the single males, right, have been here before. They were what's called lappers, lawfully admitted for permanent residence, right, making a pathway to citizenship. But what happened? Many of them lost their status. Some committed crimes. They were deported, sent back, or they just simply left, went back to whatever other country, and then their status ran out. Right? So we're finding out that the great majority of these single males have been here before. So then what does the news media try to put out there? Well, these are victims of that recent earthquake that happened in Haiti. Folks, the majority of these Haitians weren't even around. They weren't even there when this earthquake happened.
Yeah, and there was also the catalyst for them to leave that country. And that's the other thing, folks, it's easy. The media will portray it, and you'll hear, pobrecitos, poor people, they're just coming over. They're what we say in Spanish, largos. They're long and they're conniving, long in their scheming, and that's what it is, folks. When you present an opportunity, when somebody says, "Come rob me, come rape me, come take everything I'm giving to you free," it's human nature to pursue the path of least resistance. It's a sinful nature. And that's what they're going to do. Right. They're going to go, hey, you want to feed me? You want to clothe me? You want to provide for all my needs? I'll lessen my manhood. I'll lessen my responsibility to my family. I will diminish my status as a man in providing for my family, and I will go take the handout that the government is giving me. And that's what's devilish about this world, because God created us male, female, man, woman, husband, wife. That's what God did. And that's just why, it's almost, I don't know how to say it, in that we have charity groups, faith-based, handing out, and enabling that devilish, demonic ideology, or that practice of diminishing the role of a man. Now, look, there's times when we need help. There's a leg up that needs to be given. We've got the social, network of web here to help people, but it's supposed to be momentary. The Word of God says to teach people, to encourage them to work with their own hands. That's what God says.
Right. So, and I completely agree with you, Frank. So, what I want to touch upon real quick is that Frank and I have talked to a lot of these Haitians and other illegal aliens as well. I don't know if you've talked to any of them.
I haven't yet. No.
But it's interesting because a lot of them don't realize that they're actually breaking the law, coming through the river, right? Folks, you can't apply for a site, because I've been told this. I was told this the day before yesterday. Somebody called me a Nazi, because I
a Jewish Nazi.
Yeah. So anyway, because they said, well, they have every right to apply for asylum, right? And I said, if they come to a designated port of entry. Yeah. However, this is one of the reasons I believe that Joe Biden has completely ruined these people's lives, because the majority of them believe, and I don't know if you remember, Frank, when we talked to them, that they believe that they were invited by Joe Biden. And this is one of the reasons they believe that they're not breaking the law, even coming through the river. They believe that he told them, or he invited them, or made it known that, hey, come on over, we're going to give you a claim to the United States, right? It's basically like back in the day when, hey, when Mexico opened up certain parts of their land and said, hey, come and settle, right? And
here in Texas.
Right, here in Texas. And then there came this rush, but that's not what happened. But a lot of these Haitians, a lot of these Cubans, a lot of these South Americans that are coming here don't realize that they're breaking law, because they believe they've been invited. And because they were there in Mexico, Central America, and South America when Trump was president, right? And so why now? Why now? Not to mention that basically Tony Gonzalez made an open invitation for that as well. Yeah, but I don't know if that. I don't know if you agree with that or disagree with that. Or...
Yeah, well, actually, we met Tony Gonzalez a few months back. He came to Crystal City to meet with everyone because there was a lot of concerns about what was happening again with our law enforcement. They were outmanned at this certain time whenever he came down to visit us, and we asked Tony Gonzalez about what he thought and what he was going to do about these influx facilities. And of course, during that time, we found out that they were planning on opening more.
Right.
So we were here to tell him no. And again, we met with Tony Gonzalez and we shared with him our concerns. We were met beforehand for questions, and those questions were selected. So my wife and I interjected towards the end because we were clearly avoided, because many people know that we're the most outspoken in our community, especially bringing in more insight into what the influx facilities are about, and the fact that the traffic increases because they have to come through our town in order to process them in our county. So we see a lot of that activity. So again, when it comes to what even Frank said about caring for those who are coming over, we need to understand to everyone the reason why we have laws that allow people who come from other countries into our country is so that we know that who's coming is going to add to our country, not degrade our country. So when we have people from other countries coming over here, especially third world countries, I'm not saying this in any disrespectful way, but it's just the reality that the culture is different, values are different, and what we want to bring to America is actually individuals who are going to add not only to the workforce, but to the quality of life, to values. And when that, of course, is undermined, you have tons and tons of individuals who really aren't interested in adding to our country, only to take from it. And this is reality. So when we come to the men, women, and children, again, there's a lot of innocent people who are involved in what's going on, but our administration is also taking advantage of it because it's a vehicle for their also plans and purposes, and when it comes to their vision of what they want our country to look like.
Yeah.
And there are those of us who don't know that. We're sitting back and saying, well, let it happen, until we see something like what happened in Del Rio come to the front of our screens, where we see masses of people, which is, again, it's been happening since February. It's been going on. But the more people have now seen it. So it should get our attention, help us understand. If we don't know the details of what asylum is, if we don't really know how to define what an illegal alien is, we just have our heartstrings pulled by the media, and we are missing out on everything.
And the reality, the reality as well is that the Constitution identifies illegal aliens, right?
Yeah.
The Constitution tells us who's a citizen and who isn't, and how to apply that law, to the United States.
And that's why, Manny, they're actually trying to, do away with the Constitution. Now they're trying to brandish it a racist document.
Right.
But real quick, before I forget, let me say something. Somebody commented on my feed here, about, the fact that, we're border residents. And look, guys, this is not something we created here. It's something that was created to divide us, this aspect of hyphenating stuff here in America, Mexican American, Greek American, whatever, and then the Hispanic, Latino, whatever. If there's any one word that I would say I feel comfortable saying, because I feel a little bit uncomfortable with these other terms, is Tejano, which is Spanish for a Texan. But let me tell you what, we are a threat, guys. The three of us and others like us are a threat to the establishment and a threat to the Socialist Democrats, because they see us by only one thing, by the color of our skin. But we are men created in the image of God. We have intelligence and a voice, articulation that He has given us. And we don't lockstep with the socialist left Democrats. We for the border, there's thousands, millions of us like us in this border region and across the nation, folks, that we may look different, but just because of that, we're not going to buy into the same crap that Al Sharpton was bringing down here. That just because you're a certain color, black in this case, you should think a certain way, be a certain way, do a certain thing, live a certain way. Well, we disagree with that. We're Texans, we're Americans, and as these guys have been saying, we have a way of life here in America that is being threatened, it's being jeopardized, and we have to fight for it, because along with that, in order for their ideology to prosper, they will suppress our freedoms. They will suppress our individuality, and they will seek to snuff out the divine spark that lives in our heart. They will seek to kill the Spirit of God within us. So I'm just saying this to folks out here. Yeah, we're here call us Hispanics or whatever, but we are Texans and we're Americans, and we're not going to take this laying down, folks. We're not going to roll over and let the Democrats or the establishment rhino Republicans take over our voice and take over our vote. No, you're not. We're going to fight for everything that we have because it's been given to us by God and through the Constitution of this country.
You know, awesome, Frank. Awesome words, man. We can probably cut the show right there because I tell you, you know, I think when I was there yesterday when Al Sharpton showed up there at the frontera, right at the border, and I think, in my opinion, and because when he exited the vehicle, I'm going to show here a little bit what occurred over there for those of you who didn't see it. When he got out of the vehicle, he seemed, you know, real calm a little bit. I think the reason he felt that way when he exited the vehicle, folks, this county, Valverde County, this area, we have a Democratic mayor, right? We have a Democrat sheriff. We have Democrat leaders in the city council. And I think he believed that all of us as Latinos in this area, living in the border area, agreed with him. You know, because this is a Democratic area, right?
Yeah.
It's controlled by the Democratic Party, and of course we see what's happened because it's controlled by the Democratic Party. And so I think he was shocked when he heard that it was basically Latinos and, you know, other Hispanics that were voicing their disapproval of him being here.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think he assumed, just like a lot of people do, assume that because you're Latino, because you're black, because you're Jewish, because you're of some type of ethnicity, that you automatically vote Democrat.
Yeah.
Right? But that's
Minority.
not. Yeah. If you're a minority, you automatically vote Democrat. That the Democrats are the party of the minority. They're not, folks. Remember, the Democrat Party started the KKK. Right? They're the ones who instituted Jim Crow laws. Right?
Yeah.
They're the ones who opposed the release of slaves. Right?
Yeah.
The first Republican Party that was founded. It was founded in Texas by a black man, right? And so, folks, all you got to do is do your history. It's out there, right? And now a lot of it's being suppressed and trying to be changed, even taken out of our schools. But the reality, folks, is simply because you're of a certain ethnic group, or if you're a minority, we're individual. God gave us the awesomeness of free will, right? That we can think on our own. Right? And even as a believer, right? We're not robots, right? I believe in Messiah. You guys believe in Messiah, you know, but it doesn't mean that we're robots. You know, one preacher friend of mine told me one day that God called us to unity, not uniformity, right? So there's great diversity in our cultures, right? Yeah. But I think what happens is a lot of people become conditioned. You grow up with a certain way of thinking. Like I remember my abuelos, my grandparents would you know, they had pictures of JFK and Martin Luther King in their living room, right next to a picture of Jesus, right? I mean, they're like on equal status, right? I don't know. It was always Democrat, always Democrat. But at the same time, a lot of my family members had those same pictures, but were kept on welfare, were kept at a certain status, lived in the projects, right? Not saying that there are people in need, but there comes a point in time when you got to say, you know what, I gotta get out of this, and I gotta you know, make something. You know, my father always used to tell me, you know, son, there'd be no ditches if there weren't any ditch diggers. Get out there.
Yeah.
You know, you have a backbone.
There's nothing wrong with hard work.
There's nothing wrong with hard work. And then on top of that, now we see so many hiring signs here in Del Rio. I don't know if you guys have it all over the place.
We also have a problem in Carrizo with jobs. People want going out and get jobs. Yeah.
And it's a shame, right? Because nobody wants to work.
They don't want to work.
Yeah.
They don't want to work. And then what did Biden say? Well, if you want employees, pay them what we're paying them. Yeah. Basically, is what he said, right? Right. So let me show you real quick on this video about what happened when our Sharpton got to the border, and you're going to kind of see on his face a little bit, kind of the shock, a little bit of what and I have to say that you know, I don't think he mind's been identified. You know, Anthony Agüero was being pretty vocal about things, and rightly so because he's angry. He's angry at certain things, and we all should be, right? So let me put this on here. And I'm going to fast forward just a bit here. Let me see.
Hey, I'm sorry about this, guys. You won't have the video, of course, obviously in this feed. I'll provide a link.
Why are you not being the voice of the world missing at the border? 40% of children that have come in unaccompanied are now missing from the border. Kids are being sedated at the U.S. border. Why are you not being a voice for the children?
Let him speak.
Why are you stoking racism where it doesn't exist? Why are you trying to come and
Why are you standing up for border patrol protecting the
Why are you
American people?
advocating for violence? Why are you here advocating for violence? Del Rio is not a racist city. Del Rio is a loving, caring community. We don't want your racism in Texas. Get out of here. Nobody wants to hear your racist nonsense in Del Rio. You're a racist. Nobody wants you in Texas. Nobody wants you in Texas. Why?
All right, and that is inherently offensive.
So I'm gonna, that video there. Let me see if I'm coming up now. Here we go.
Shout out to Anthony if you come on Instagram, Anthony.
Yeah. Hey, Anthony, thank you so much for standing up for the children who are being brought over here illegally. They're the innocent victims in all of this as well. Anthony put up a video a while back where he's interviewing all these single fathers, right? And I get angry about that, because all of a sudden, all the males are being returned back to their countries of origin. And next, we have this surge of single fatherhood where their wives and the mothers of these children abandon them somehow, right? Which doesn't happen. I've told people, basically in the Hispanic culture, mothers don't abandon their children. That's just the way it is. Fathers, on the other hand, sad to say, we have a lot of absentee fathers. But the reality is, all of a sudden, now we have a whole bunch of these single fathers bringing these children over. So Anthony's trying to talk with them in his video. And you could tell all the children are sedated, brother.
Yeah.
They can't. I don't know if you guys seen the video.
I've seen the video. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's sickening.
They're laying on the ground, and these gentlemen are holding the children, and some of them even have two in their hands, and they're just laying there. And if you're a doctor, if you have any medical experience when it comes to someone being sedated, they have all the signs of them. They're groggy. They're not taking a nap or asleep, waiting, to be moved. They are sedated. And you can tell it clearly. Yeah,
you can tell it clearly. And what's interesting is that there is a if you I don't know if you guys saw the look on Sharpton's face. I think he was like shocked at first, like really this is happening to me, that these people are here, and then you can't hear it, but I was right there. Who does he blame? Trump supporters.
Yeah.
Right away he says all these Trump supporters, brother. The majority of people that were there is media. None of them really identify themselves as supporting Trump, right?
Yeah.
But even there were some Trump supporters there.
Yeah.
But what does he do? He starts putting the blame on Trump, like they all do.
Yeah.
And so, but he brought this gentleman with him, who was a pastor, right? He identified him as a pastor, a Baptist pastor, and I'm going to play it real quick because he gets into it with Anthony.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, and it was interesting to me because right before this, he was standing behind Sharpton, kind of with his hands folded in prayer and being kind of pious, and then next thing you know, boom, he's in Anthony's face, right? And so let me pull it up over here.
And so obviously you all can see, to my audience, you can't see the video that Manny just posted up there, but it's one of the entourage members of
community being a bunch of freaking racism. This is all race bait. This is all race bait. This is all race bait. I'm a first generation American. I stand for Americans, chump. Whatever.
Go get a shot.
The spirit that lives within the border regions, what we call ourselves, Texas Tejanos.
Yeah. So
they want to counter that.
I had to cut it because there's some language that comes on after this that I want to put on the show. Yeah.
Something about kitty cats.
Yeah, something like that. Right. But it's amazing to me because here's this guy, right? He's supposed to be a peaceful man, right? And look, folks, I'm not saying that being meek is being weak, right? But I mean, the Lord calls us that there are times when we have to rise up, but to fight like that and get in somebody's face like that when Anthony was upset, and a lot of people were upset, right? That's not the way you really handle things. So anyway, I think they were shocked here on the border because there's this stigma, there's this stereotype that all of us are Democrat, right? All of us are liberal.
Yeah, and they'll come up with this notion, bro, in the political sphere here about this is a purple area, it's a purple. Well, I'll tell you what, we are conservative at heart, and I don't want to come up with a cliche. We are conservatives at heart, but it's the demonism, the demonic aspect of the socialist ideology that's taken over the Democrat Party now. It's keeping people in chains. It's keeping people in chains. And so what we're trying to say here as Tejanos here, as Texans, who happen to speak two languages, and maybe you all speak more languages, Spanish, English, You know, some
Hebrew.
people say Tex-Mex. What's that?
Hebrew.
Hebrew, hey, there he goes, Hebrew. Look, guys, we need to wake up and speak out against the powers that be. And we need to find other like-minded people like us that love freedom, love America, love the Constitution, love God, family, and we need to get together and we need to send a message not just to the Democrat Party but to the Republican Party.
Yeah.
No son nuestros dueños. You are not our masters. God is our master. He is our Lord and our King, and that is the only one we will bow to. But in the meantime, there's going to be more of us like this that are going to rise up because we don't agree with what is happening to our nation. It's for our children's future,
Right.
and it's in danger, folks. And we need to get involved in the political sphere, but we also need to exercise our amendment rights, First Amendment, to speak out, to address, have our grievances made, to assemble peacefully, and keeping always in mind that we have other amendments that are available to us. But anyways, I'll say enough about that.
Yeah, I want to. It's funny you said that about the Tejano spirit, because when I saw that happening, and and Anthony rising up and standing up against that gentleman, that's the first thing that came to mind. I bet you they forgot they were in Texas, right? Because it's not just about being Latino, it's not about just being Hispanic or anything like that. But there is a spirit in Texas, right? There's a spirit that the Tejanos have. I'm originally from the state of New Mexico, but like I tell people, I got here as quickly as I could. I've been here living over 25 years now. First time I got here was back in the 90s, serving in the military at Fort Hood, and I fell in love with Texas. I fell in love with the spirit of Texas. I fell in love with the people of Texas, because we have a rich history here, right? That's why it's still called the Republic of Texas, right? Because we stood up for ourselves at the Alamo, at Gonzales, at Seguin, at San Jacinto, all these other places. If you do your history, we have that flag with a can on it. Come and get it.
Yeah.
Right, and that's exactly what went through my mind when I saw that interaction there between Anthony and that gentleman there, and so. So anyway, folks, and Frank is exactly right. There are things afforded to us, and the greatest things that is afforded to us is first free will.
Yes.
Salvation that we have in Messiah. And the United States Constitution, which, if you don't know this, it is the only constitution in basically the whole world that has not been changed. Right? It's been amended, it's been ratified, but it is still basically based on its original principles, just like the Declaration of Independence. Right? It has not been changed since 1776. It is still the same document. It is still the same words that we live by as a nation, going over 200 and some odd years now as a nation. The sad thing is, folks, is that many people don't know what's in the Declaration of Independence. They don't know what's in the United States Constitution. They don't study for themselves. And if you don't know, the Bible tells us, study to show yourself approved, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about spreading the gospel, which is the greatest thing we can do, right? Is spread the gospel, the greatest commission that we have. But it's also about being knowledgeable for self-preservation, and be knowledgeable in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. If you're not knowledgeable in these things, you don't know these things. Guess what? When these things are happening, like that are happening now, with these mandates, with these mask mandates, with these vaccine mandates, and all, as they slowly start taking away your freedoms, people are going to fall for it.
Yes.
And they're going to give up their freedoms willingly.
Yeah, and that's part of the aspect that this warfare is multifaceted, folks. With these black Israeli
Black Hebrew Israelites.
Black Hebrew Israelites. What a mouthful! I just say it's the it's a crew looking for a bad comic book somewhere, man, by the way these guys were dressed. But anyways, we have an influx of this ideology, bro. Al Sharpton, these folks come down. The left's been at work here for a long time. And so you said something, Manny, about self-preservation. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is a weapon. But we have to be armed, not just with knowledge. Literally, physically, we have to, pray for our bodies, take care of our bodies, take care of our health, and be prepared for anything. With this influx of the Haitians, it was just one aspect, folks, of what can transpire. Look at the way that our forces here were overwhelmed, our resources here in Del Rio. That was just one group of people. There's other people still in the pipeline. It hasn't stopped. It's not going to slow down. The word is now that these people, they were dispersed from Del Rio because of the bad optics, but they were just farmed out to places
Yeah.
to be processed and released.
Yeah.
So they're still going to come.
Yeah.
The word is still going to go back to other countries, and the cartels specifically, working hand in hand with the UN, who Biden brought down into, asked them to come into Mexico. It's just going to ramp up even more. So we need to be prepared to defend our very lives and our property, and that's where the Second Amendment comes in as well, man.
And Pete, you guys in Gatineau Springs, I know you guys have been involved in the city council meetings, been involved in trying to educate congregations as well.
Yeah.
One of the things that I see down here, I don't know if you guys see it in Gatineau Springs. Tell me if I'm correct me if I'm wrong. But a lot of people in the faith community, they're not really saying much, are they?
No, very very few are. We know of a few different churches who are getting involved and have the conversations, but as far as stepping out, and this is why we were encouraging it. We actually did, I believe it was a 6-part study on what the Bible says about politics and the proper view we should have as Christians on government, and how the Bible reveals how God is involved in the governments of men and how nations rule their people, how they rule their kingdoms is important. God looks upon it, and in what he declares, based on how a nation rules its people, whether it's bad policies, corrupt king, corrupt leaders, he does eventually bring judgment to that. So as Christians, as we're praying, as we're looking, as we're being involved, we should see everything that's happening in regard to the border and how it's negatively impacting our communities and how it's negatively impacting our country, and say, hey, we do need to get involved. We do need to say something about this, because if we don't, who else really will? And if God's people are called to be a light, especially when it's really dark, and we're not being that light, then the darkness will continue to grow, and there will be negative influences, there will be deception, there will be blindness, and it's our responsibility to do that. So when it comes to the churches around us, not many, unfortunately, are speaking or getting involved or even teaching about it in their churches. Unfortunately, we pray that they would, and we encourage that they would, but unfortunately, it's not popular, or we don't get involved in politics, or this is going to affect our membership, or time. And we get that, but yes, we don't have very many people talking about it.
And that's sad, folks, because I'm going to tell you, me and Frank talk about it quite often, here in our program. But I just want to see that people know that's not just us seeing this here in Del Rio. That you guys are seeing it as well. I get reports from other places. The same thing is going on, and it's sad, folks, because people try to tell me, well, the Bible doesn't talk about us getting involved in politics, folks. The most successful nations in the world are based on Judeo-Christian principles, right? Based on the scriptures, right? Look at Israel, the greatest democracy in the Middle East, the most fertile land in the Middle East, right? And with the greatest number of doctors and scientists, right? They are basically a world power in a country the size of New Jersey, right? We look at the United States, the great experiment, right? The great Judeo-Christian experiment, right? That has become the most powerful country in the world until January 20th of 2021, right? when Biden came into office, and now we're a laughing stock. But folks, why do people keep coming to the United States? Why do people keep streaming over our borders? Is it because America is racist? Is it because America is unfair? Is it because America is an oppressive nation, like many of these college-age kids who've never lived anywhere in their life besides their mother's basement, right? The parents' basement, come out and say how oppressive it is. Yeah, it's oppressive when your parents unplug your PlayStation or your Xbox, right? But get out and do something. But the reality, folks, is that when we look at how God set up the nation of Israel, we look at the Torah, we look at the book of Deuteronomy, which is set up as a book of laws and establishment, right? And then even the book of Leviticus is basically a medical manual, right? Help people survive plagues and help people come up with great medical intuition and knowledge. We look at all these things. I say this because a lot of people say, well, the Bible's just a spiritual book. It is spiritual, but it's also a book of history. It's a book of medicine. It's a book of how we treat people. When we look at how all these other nations that are without the scriptures, without the true scriptures anyway, how they treat their children, how they treat their women, right? How they treat their neighbor, right? We see that these are oppressive and failing nations.
And real quick, guys, I don't mean to interject here, Manny, as we're talking. There's some stuff coming on my feed here about BLM, supposedly vehicles getting spotted coming this way. Look, folks, short of any kind of verification from police department and stuff, you stay alert. That's always a possibility. It's always a possibility, but that just kind of underscores, Manny, what we have to, be armed with knowledge and just be ready to defend ourselves and our families, man.
Yeah.
And there are Christian nations out there. I found out, several years ago that there are some nations that are purely Christian. Bro.
Yeah.
And their government is Christian.
Right.
They use God's law to apply it to their government in Africa, and so that is one of those things that folks, it's very heartening. The gospel will go forth. We need to be prepared. As the Word of God says, with your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace, man. Hey, do we sound a little bit, kind of rough and tough, or ready to kind of rumble, ready to kind of a little bit? It stirs up, whether it's in the blood or whatever you want to say. Whether it's part of that Texan, fighting spirit. I think it transcends that, and it goes into the aspect of, look, God gave us His Spirit. He's breathed life into us. And we want to fight to preserve that life. Man.
The other day I got a text sent to me. It was pretty cool. It was actually a pretty cool text. That when King David, well, he wasn't king yet, but when he went out to go face Goliath, they said, yeah, David prayed, but then he picked up the stone, right? Eventually, folks, because a lot of people tell me that, well, all we can do is pray. All we can do is pray, folks. If believers didn't pray and then stand up, we wouldn't be where we're at today as a free nation, right? We've talked about the Black Robe Regiment, a while back, and then if you haven't never heard of the Black Robe Regiment, they're actually responsible. Britain actually holds them responsible for the Revolution, for the American Revolution. It was a bunch of clergy that wore black robes, but underneath the black robes they had pistols and on them, and they would preach with their pistols and their Bibles at the pulpit, encouraging their congregations to stand up and fight against tyranny. Right, and to make it known, I served in the military. Frank, you served in the military, and so there's this fighting spirit within us. Pete, you're born and raised here in Texas, which, in my opinion, is the greatest state in the union.
I agree.
And so there's this fighting spirit that is kind of in you, right? Because you're born here, right? And so, like my daughter, she was born here in Texas, and man, she loves the fact that she was born here in Texas, man. And so. But as believers, we're also able to recognize a fight or a defense, right? We need to put up defense, right? And so, Pete, I don't know if you get that same stereotype that we were talking about earlier, that people expect a certain way that you're supposed to vote, that you're supposed to lean towards, or anything like that.
No, definitely. We are an anomaly where we're from. Number one, because we're Mexican. Number two, because we're young. Number three, because we don't align ourselves with a lot of the Democrat ideals and policies. And the reason why I say that is, if you're not familiar with what the Democrat policies are versus Republican policies, get familiar. Divide them down the line. You can see it when it comes to the economy, when it comes to immigration, when it comes to, again, abortion, and when it comes to marriage. You can see it. And although some of us may not align with Democrat or Republican, maybe we're in the middle or independent, the point is that you should be aware of what you believe and what you're standing for, and not just saying, well, at least Biden's a better option than Trump, or vice versa, whatever it may be. Right. But where we're from, we're an anomaly. And when we got involved with things that are happening on the border, we did our very best, number one, to educate ourselves. Number two, to do things the right way, meaning go to city council meetings. So if you're watching, every one of you who is watching, if you have the ability to show up in your town to city council meetings, commissioners' courts, to your school board meetings, we want to encourage you. You need to do that. You need to know the names of the people who are running so you can get involved, because we have a lot of power in our hands as citizens to make sure we hold our leaders accountable. So where we're from, we decided to get involved, and a lot of people looked at us as crazies. Why are you getting involved? Why do you even care? And if you're a Christian, you should definitely not get involved. You should just sit back. So yeah, we're met with a lot of confusion at times, but over the past 9 months, thank God that's changed. A lot of that's changed, and more people have information that they didn't have before. Right. I want to let you know really fast that for those of you who live in Dimmitt County, or those who are live right now, if you want to see kind of the pulse of what's been going on in Dimmitt County for a while, check out Dimmitt County Border Crisis Reports. Dimmitt County Border Crisis Reports. I'm the administrator of that page, and I post the information that's given to us by our sheriff there in Carrizo, in Zavala as well, which is Crystal City. And I show the activity that's going on when it comes to buses, when it comes to the stopping of these human smugglers and all the events that are going on. Go to that border page, check it out. We put out information there. And as I hand it back over to brother Manny, my good brother here, I also want to give a quick shout out to all the Border Patrol wives who are watching with us right now. A shout out to you. Thank you so much for everything that you do, especially those who are praying for all of the Border Patrol out there right now on the front lines. I just want to say thank you, and our prayers are also with you who are at home watching all this happen, and to also deal with the things that your husbands go through as well, that are on the front lines, and everybody else who serves, of course. When it comes to law enforcement, we just want to say thank you as well.
Thank you so much, Peter. I really appreciate you sharing that. And then, real quick shout out to Kelsey French, who helped organize this rally yesterday at the Del Rio International Airport. Got some Border Patrol wives together as well, and other people in the community to help support, show their patriotism, support our law enforcement as well, folks. We support our law enforcement. We back them up. We are glad that they're here, but I think the mission is a little bit skewed on what Governor Abbott, the reason he has them here. But anyway, but we appreciate that they're here. We love them. Let me answer real quick. There's any truth to BLM coming? We don't know. We don't know. My sources haven't told me anything yet. So, folks, please don't go out there and start spreading all kinds of rumors.
Yeah.
The other day, there was rumors going around that DHS and CBP and DPS were telling citizens to clear out, to evacuate Del Rio. Folks, we don't know. I mean, if we get some confirmation, we'll put it out. But in some cases, there's certain people that tell us that we don't know what we're talking about. So
Yeah.
But anyway, but if we find out anything, we'll let you know.
Yeah.
Folks, just to remind you again, we do have a website, tacoboutlive.com, and so you can go to our website. We have our podcasts will be on there as well. We'll put this on podcast. You can go look. You can watch the show. We're also on Rumble and YouTube as well. Please subscribe. We're going to eventually move away from Facebook.
Yeah.
They've kind of been restricting us on our reach, so eventually we'll probably be moving away from Facebook, going straight to Rumble and YouTube if possible, because now YouTube has increased their watchers to 1,000 people in order for you to stream live. So it's getting smaller and smaller, folks, for conservative and people to get the word out. So as we wrap this up, Frank, you got anything to
I do have quick announcements. Once again, just kind of piggybacking on what Peter here said about the law enforcement, Border Patrol. As y'all know, Manny and I were, chaplains with the Border Patrol for a long time. We worked together starting in '98. Manny was the first chaplain I brought on the sector chaplaincy team here. Did a lot of great work, but it's always been with a heart towards, taking care of not just the agent, but their support structure, their family as well.
Yeah.
And to that end, folks, there's a great initiative. Let me just put it out right now. There will be more information coming out. But you all heard about the horse patrol incident, that picture that got all misconstrued. It is the reason how Sharpton came down here, and all this fake outrage, across the nation about, people, being degraded. What's more dehumanizing than what the Biden administration did to them, enticing them to come here. But by the way, a gentleman by the name of Miguel Zuniga. Miguel Zuniga is out of Comstock, Texas. He's known kind of as the unofficial mayor out there. Comstock's a very small town. Yeah. Miguel out there has volunteered with the fire department many years, and he's involved in local affairs out there. So Miguel Zuniga is putting together the Split Reins Trail Ride. Split Reins Trail Ride, and he wants to have one of the biggest horse trail rides, at least that Del Rio has seen. Well, I'm thinking in my head, let's make it freaking huge. Let's make it something that's the biggest seen in this part of Texas since who knows when. So stay tuned. Miguel Zuniga out of Comstock is arranging the Split Reins Trail Ride, and it's going to be to honor the men in green, the Horse Patrol unit, which, to our shame, guys, horses, and let me say this real quick, man. I'm starting to spin up here, guys. Look, Texas, our narrative, our history is embodied in the cowboy image.
Yes.
It's embodied in the importance and the role of horses.
Pecos, Texas, the home of the rodeo.
In the creation of this nation, bro.
Right.
Yeah, horses have been involved, in the westward expansion. Oh my God, I can hear already the freaking, the faint of heart snowflakes talking about the westward expansion. Horses were instrumental in that, and it's a part of Texas history. And so it's not just an affront to the Border Patrol that the White House reached all the way down to say, stop this horse patrol unit. But it's also in the slap in the face of Texas, bro.
Right.
Because the cowboy, the horse, is an integral part of our identity here in Texas. And so it's also the White House Biden administration slapping Texas once again in the face. So let's make this trail ride huge, man. Let's make it huge. So stay tuned for more details about that.
Yeah, so hopefully we get some information on that, Frank, and we'll post it up on our Facebook page and on our website. Miguel Zuniga out of Comstock, right, putting together this trail ride. And again, folks, it wasn't a whip. There was no whips. It was reins, right? Me personally, Frank, I believe the agent was trying to protect the Haitian, because the Haitian grabbed the bridle. That would have turned the horse on him. They could have thrown the agent, run over the Haitian. We would have something worse on our hands. Pete, you got anything?
I actually do. I think that most of us as Texans and those who live close near the border really showed those who were talking and criticizing about what happened here with the Border Patrol that we are not going to take that line down. You don't do that to the Border Patrol.
Yeah.
People are putting their lives on the line,
Yes.
and we can't take that for granted. So it was good to see so many people online after that, especially a lot of our amazing Border Patrol wives who are online
Yes.
as well,
Yeah.
defending their husbands, defending the Border Patrol. Thank you guys for doing that and putting the information out there and the pictures. The last thing I want to mention is, along with what's going on down there at the bridge, is we had a group that came out of nowhere known as the Black Hebrew Israelites. And we had this discussion on our border page specifically because we got asked a lot of questions. Why is this group there? They're bringing in supplies. They say they want to help the Haitians. And what's going on? Why are they dressed that way? We discussed that, but they were confusing a lot of people because they have Bibles. They were using scripture. They were talking about the Haitians being of the nation of Israel. Don't get confused by that. So we want to encourage you. Please go view that particular breakdown that I did on our Border Crisis Reports page, because we go through the actual history, the viewpoints, so you can be prepared. If you don't have enough church history under your belt, if you don't have any type of faith, it's going to be really hard to understand why this group is there. So basically what they believe is that the Haitian people are part of the tribes of Israel who were historically scattered in history, and they believe they're there to go and gather them and to do God's work. They believe they have a mandate to show love to them, to show them that all of the hate that they've experienced as black people. Again, this goes right back to what we're trying to fight when it comes to racism about skin color. And they show up here trying to, claiming that they're going to help them out and regather them, show them that they're loved. But you have to understand this group does have a history. They do have they are tied to a lot of anti-Semitism, a lot of racism. There definitely is many supremacist branches within this group. So be very careful, be very cautious when it comes to this group.
Yeah, they can be very aggressive as well. Like I said, fellow rabbis of mine and as well as congregational members have had interactions with these Black Hebrew Israelites, and they have different, sects within that.
Yeah.
Within that, and so, but the majority of them, actually, I think all of them, on that same line of anti-Semitism, hatred towards Jews, because they believe that, I'm Jewish. They believe that we're imposters as far as being Hebrew,
And that the white man is evil personified.
Yeah, exactly.
If it wasn't about skin color, well, here we have an emphasis on skin color.
Yeah, and so it's amazing. But folks, be cautious of them. I believe local authorities are aware that they are here and they are taking their presence seriously. So praise the Lord for that. But folks, again, we want to thank you so much for joining us. Talk about it live. Like I said, hopefully we'll get some broadcasts out here in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be on leave for the next couple of weeks as well. So
On leave, you're retired, brother.
well, you know what I mean.
Last thing, really quick, we also want to thank Jesse Perez, who's with us.
Thank you,
Hey,
Jesse.
Jesse, thank you.
Who drove me over here, and also has Jam 2 Productions. He brought his camera equipment out here. We're gonna probably get some footage here for you guys back at home. So thank you to Jesse.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jesse. Really appreciate it, brother, you being here. And again, a big shout out to Grace of God Community Church there in Carrizo Springs. If you have an opportunity to go visit them, you guys still have your Israelites podcast going as well.
Yeah, so, Israelites podcast. That's Israel-Lights lights as an illumination.
Awesome. And so please go check them out as well. And just real quick, another mention on that Dimmitt County.
It's Dimmitt County Border Crisis Reports on Facebook.
Awesome. Folks, we want to thank you so much for being a part of our show this morning. If you haven't had your tacos, go get your tacos as well. Make sure you get your belly full as well.
And I do have one more. We're plugging, bro.
All right.
On YouTube, Frank Lopez Jr., U.S. Border Patriot on YouTube. I need 1,000 subscribers so I can go live on YouTube. Frank Lopez Jr., U.S. Border Patriot. subscribe. You can like the videos or whatever, but subscribe to the channel. Thank you all very much.
Awesome. God bless you. God bless America.
God
and
bless
God
you
bless
all.
Texas.